Hello everyone, welcome to another video of Into the Hive Mind. This one I wanted to just basically go over all of the new changes to chapter approved and the FAQs that just recently came out. All of this is obviously specifically pertaining to Tyranids and Genestealer cult. We actually have quite a few decent changes, more than it appears at first glance. I apologize, I'm a little congested right now, just spring allergies and uh but so the let's start off with some point changes. The biggest one is the 30-point drop on Swarmlord. This is amazing. Swarmlord is now, I feel like, on par with what his damage output is compared to most of the other characters that are out there. You have so many things right now that are doing D3 plus 3 damage for big monster beatstick characters. So having this point drop on Swarmlord really makes him feel like you're now back on par with what you get for your points. This means he's only like 25 points, or no, 35 points more than a flying Hive Tyrant. And that 35 points for a double move ability is absolutely worth it every time. If you're planning on taking a Hive Tyrant anyways, I would definitely just pay the extra points to upgrade him to Swarmlord. In all of my lists, I run him as Kraken. Just that mobility in 9th edition is huge. So big bump there. I think that's by far the biggest one in the entire book. The next point change is 2-point drop on Genestealers. This in itself is fine and okay. But combine that with the point drop with Swarmlord, I do think putting Genestealers back in a Kraken list with Swarmlord is probably worth doing. I don't know if I'd go back to the 3 units of 20, the 60 Genestealers that was so popular in 8th edition. I just don't think Genestealers hit their points value at all anymore, even with that decrease. You're still trying to kill, with a unit of 20, you have to kill 260 points worth. They're still very much glass cannons, lacking kind of the cannon part now that Space Marines all have 2 wounds. As soon as that happened, Genestealers kind of just dropped off the map. But basically, what I would do, especially with the meta shifting to lots more of T3 infantry between the AdMech and the Sisters, and Space Marines not becoming quite as prominent. Obviously, Dark Eldar still big. I would say units of 10 Genestealers that basically just hide until Swarmlord throws them at something. A unit of 10 for 130 points could probably get their points value back, or at least disrupt, throw them on an objective, take an objective from your opponent, deny 5 primary points, and that is absolutely worth 130 points there. So I do think bringing Genestealers back is a good choice, but I would probably not go much bigger than 10 or 12-man units. The next point drop is on the Tervigon. We had a 20-point drop, which, is great. The Tervigon is just bad, though. I believe when they the fake point release that came out, they dropped the Tervigon 50 points, and I still didn't think that was good enough. The Tervigon is just badly designed. The fact that its spawning rule requires reinforcement points, you might as well just bring those Gaunts in the first place. The Tervigon does not provide enough buffs between its psychic power and 3 piddly attacks just to be worth it. So the Tervigon just needs a redesign. It doesn't matter what point value it's at. It's really never going to be worth it. Next up, we had a 15-point drop on the Trigon Prime. This is specifically on the Prime, so the Trigon itself stayed the same. This is good. I think both of them could have used a point decrease. I think a Trigon honestly should be like 130 because he's toughness 6 and only 12 wounds, and that's just with no invuln, and that's just not a durable stat line anymore. But basically, now you're paying only 25 points for that character synapse upgrade instead of 40, which, is nice. But again, Trigons just need a bump in durability, and then they'd be great again. And then the final point change for Tyranids, we did have a 25-point increase on the Demacharon. I think this is fair. The Demacharon is super strong. not as much against Dark Eldar. I was kind of phasing them out anyways at this point, but we'll see what all sticks around in the meta. The Democharon is actually pretty good against Admech, being able to basically rip their transports open and touch a small strength 3 unit for his mortal wound ability to get that feel no pain is pretty nice. Unfortunately, he does kind of get deleted anyways after that, but he does at least take a majority of their firepower in the process. Honestly, for that point increase, the Democharon is now 20 points more than a Scythe Tyranid, and the Scythe Tyranid performs a very similar role. So if you want, just swap your lists over to the Scythe Tyranid instead of the Democharon, and they perform very much the same. But you also get a cool 3d6 Flamer. So that's all the point changes for Tyranids. Honestly, they could have done a lot more. We have so many units that are just sitting on the shelf doing nothing. But again, Swarmlord and Genestealers were the main ones, as well as the Democharon debuff. So I think we got off okay, but we could have had a lot better, Swarmlord being the big one. As far as Genestealer Cult, they basically did nothing, which is really sad because Genestealer Cult is probably... Genestealer Cult and Tau are the two weakest armies in the game right now. So Genestealer Cult got a 2-point drop on their Adelan Jackals. Adelan Jackals were already super cheap. The downside of them is, in order to make them actually effective, they require 1 million CP use. And obviously a 2-point drop is not affecting that CP usage. So, I mean, it's nice, but again, people weren't really taking Adelan Jackals, and I don't think this is going to make people take them. They're good for a fast distraction unit, I guess, but they don't really do much. And then in addition, we had a 2-point drop on Pure Strains. Also, meh. I mean, Pure Strains are not being taken, and it's not because of their point cost, which did need to be dropped, but it's the fact that the Pure Strains can't receive any of the buffs in the Genestealer book. I mean, if Pure Strains could get their Cult Creed, if Pure Strains could benefit from really anything, then they might be worth it, but the fact that they're more expensive than the Tyranid ones, who get all the support and stratagems, and then the Pure Strains get one stratagem that's random, so not very good, they're still not really worth taking, which, I mean, you'll take Acolytes over Pure Strains every single time, to have the OBSEC in addition to basically the same durability and damage output for half the points. So unfortunately, not a lot for Genestealer Cult there. I was actually really hoping characters would decrease, like the Magus especially. I mean, the psychic powers for Genestealer Cult are great, don't get me wrong, but 85 points for a 4-wound T3 character seems a lot, and you kind of want to do the 100 points for the Familiar as well. So I was really hoping for the Magus to drop to like 60, seems more fair. But anyways, I guess just wait for a Genestealer Cult book whenever that'll come out. I do think Genestealer Cult is still okay. I've actually been using them as a ally for Tyranids right now, just specifically for Dark Eldar. Hand Flamers are super good, and the Keller Morph has actually been an all-star. So if you haven't looked at the Keller Morph recently, I suggest looking at him with the Oppressor's Bane. Most of the characters in the game that are really good right now are being dropped by this guy, and it's been super fun. Anyways, moving on from point changes, we have just some general FAQs, which I think actually affects us way more than any of the point changes did. First off, the main FAQ that I think pretty much everyone knows about, they changed the rule for anything that basically makes you count as remaining stationary. So our Exocrine, with his count as remaining stationary stratagem, can now fall back and shoot as long as you use that CP, and he gets to count as remaining stationary. So he gets +1 to hit, he shoots twice, even after falling back, which is an awesome buff, is very great. The only downside is the Exocrine, the only Tyranid FAQ that we got was you can't use that if the Exocrine has advanced, which is fine. And then also, if the Exocrine is coming in from reserve, he still counts as having moved regardless of if you use that stratagem or not. So no more using the stratagem to bring in an exocrine from reserve. Honestly, I've always kept mine on the table anyways, so that's not a big deal for me, but I know some people like to outflank them to try and protect them, which you can do, but you just can no longer use the stratagem to benefit them that turn. Another one that is kind of minor for us, but they changed the whenever you deep strike, it has to be 9 inches horizontally away. You ignore vertical distance now completely. You have to be 9 inches away horizontally. That doesn't impact us a huge amount, but the main thing for me is, again, I've been using the Keller Morph, and what was really nice is the Keller Morph showing up on a building, because my opponent would try and screen out his characters, but they would always forget to screen out for the height difference from buildings that their characters were nearby. Again, not a huge deal. I just probably have to spend the 2 CP to show them up 3 inches away more often now. This was done because of the stupid raider thing that people were talking about with measuring to the hull. So now raiders, you need you can't charge them if they're on top of 9-inch terrain or whatever that nonsense was. But that's the reason for this change. It doesn't affect us a whole lot. Only, again, you can't deep strike on buildings and shoot people anymore. Another change, which I think is really nice, this kind of just affects everyone, not necessarily just us, but they did finally standardize and clarify the always fight first and always fight last rules. So now if you have a rule that is always fight first, including if you had charged, you alternate players with players' units with that rule, starting with the player whose turn it is. So that's basically back to 8th edition, which is really nice because, my girlfriend's Slanesh army, her whole army has always fight first, and it got really confusing when she would get charged or when she would charge people because of combination of 8th edition rules with 9th edition rules on who gets to actually fight first. It was just a mess, and that has been standardized. So if both players have always fight first, you alternate starting with the player whose turn it is. Same thing if you have rules that make you always fight last. You alternate players starting with the player whose turn it is. If you have both rules or neither rules, if you have both, they cancel and count as having neither. But if you do that, then you alternate players starting with the player whose turn it is not. So that is the standard 9th edition ruling on that. So it's really nice that has been clarified and standardized throughout all the codexes, because, again, that was just a mess. Especially with all the new books coming out, every single faction now seems to have some kind of ability to make people fight last. I don't know why they need that to be such a big thing, but it is. Another big one that I don't think really anyone has noticed, maybe just me because I've been playing the Harridan a whole bunch, but super heavy auxiliary detachments now refund 2 of the 3 CP if they are the same sub-faction as your warlord. So that Harridan detachment, as long as the Harridan is the same hive fleet as your warlord, is only 1 CP instead of 3. And that is huge because I have to say the biggest thing that I've been missing out on, especially adding in Genestealer Cult in addition to the Harridan, is I've been starting my games with 6 CP, and that has hurt a lot as Tyranids. So being able to now start with 8 CP or 10 if I'm not taking the Genestealer Cult is so nice, and is absolutely... I've been running the Harridan as Kronos just for the random anti-psyker strat. I am more than happy to run my Harridan as Kraken in order to get 2 CP back. That's a huge buff, and make sure you look at that. In the same vein, there were a couple changes to secondaries. I do think the one that replaced Deploy Scramblers is still going to be one of our best ones. You take that in addition to Engage on All Fronts, and we have the mobility and the multiple troop units to be able to basically max point that, and now we can even get a max point of 12. You just need to not get tabled. But as long as you can perform that action in every table quarter, you can now get 12 points, which, yay for us. I think we can very much do that. And that extra 2 points is really nice. I've noticed when I've been max pointing my games, I keep scoring less than everyone else because I've been taking things like deploy scramblers and assassinate when my opponent only has 3 characters. So being able to get a couple more points on scramblers now will help. In addition, the change to Psychic Ritual, which I believe is now Warp Ritual. I don't know why they are changing the names, but that I think that's actually worth taking for our army now. Just spend the points to get a Broodlord, and the nice thing about Psychic Ritual is it no longer has to be the same character, which is a massive change. You no longer have to have one character sit in the middle of table and survive for 3 turns, which was nearly impossible. It is also not all or nothing anymore. It is now progressive, which is fantastic because we can guaranteed get it for 2 turns, which I believe gets us 7 points now. And I think that's worth taking rather than any of the kill secondaries, unless your opponent easily gives you like 15 points. Because with just a little bit of effort, I do actually think we can get that 3rd turn as well and get 13 secondary points on Psychic Ritual, which is awesome. And much better than taking, say, Assassinate against Space Marines who only have 3 characters, which is what I've been doing a lot of. So I do think Psychic Ritual is worth taking, especially with Tyranids. And finally, the other secondary that's huge, again, specifically because I've been playing the Harridan, Titan Hunter now only gives up 4 points if you kill 1 Titanic unit. It's now a much more standardized, it's like 4, 9, and 14, I think, for killing number of Titanic units. Probably 4, 9, 15. But that's designed for knights. However, the side effect of it is now if the Harridan dies, like no one's going to take Titan Hunter if you take a Harridan because killing it only gets them 4 points. So that just makes the Harridan even that much better. I think that's most of the changes. The point changes were actually not the biggest thing for us. It was mostly these changes to secondaries, but let me know what you guys think. And I actually think we did get an overall buff with how everything came out. Will it be enough? I guess we'll see. But I look forward to talking to you all in the next video when I come back from Bug Eater and ACO and let you guys know how I did. Thanks for watching.